Welcome to the Podium Proof F1 podcast. I'm Frank Alessi.
I'm David Alessi.
George Russell takes his maiden win in F1 with the Mercedes 1-2 in Brazil. Non-stop action and drama in this one to get into, so let's get it.
Well,
what a race / weekend.
Well. First of all, welcome. And boy, have we got a lot to talk about after this Brazilian GP.
What did it make up for Mexico's crap?
Yeah, no doubt.
First off, about the Brazilian GP. How is this not the last race of the season? Could you imagine if this shit would have been a finale?
I support it. I'm here for it. Let's do it. I know we're not the only ones that have been screaming that for quite some time now. Yeah. So, as we have a lot to get into, let's go ahead and talk about some bourbon here for a minute, and then we'll get right into that, or right into the race. So, I will do I'm going to say a fresh cork pop, but it's really more of a fresh screw off with it's got special in the name. It's not really any of their special bottles. It's special to me because it is the first bottle of Weller that is in my possession. Thank you, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got some Weller Special Reserve, the original weeded bourbon. Special Reserve comes in at 90 proof. I don't even know what these things go for. What,
25 bucks?
Yeah. And it's a $25 bottle of weeded bourbon. Like, it's good for a $25 bottle.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. I think for a $25 bottle, it is exceptional. I would drink it all day, every day.
If I could get it, I absolutely would.
Now, look, some people pay absurd amounts of money for even it. And it's one of those bottles, and people are like, oh, man, it's not worth the hype. Well, no, it's not worth the hype if you spent $60 on it.
Yeah.
But
dude, I think people are paying more than that.
I don't know about that for the Special Reserve, but either way, everything is relative. Just because the secondary market drives this price up on some of these brands of bourbon to insane things doesn't mean it's supposed to be that.
Right.
So you can't then compare it to a bottle that's MSRP
that rightfully sits in that window.
It's a $25 bottle, and it is a damn good $25 bottle.
Yeah. If it was easily accessible, I would drink it daily.
If you put it up against all 25s, bro, it's gonna kill them. Because it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is good. It absolutely is.
People just got to keep everything kind of in its lane.
Within perspective.
Yeah.
Well, on the Weller topic, not that I watch it. I probably should. I've been told I need to. But if you thought Weller 12 was hard to get now and expensive, now that it made a showing on the new episode of Yellowstone, it's going to be ungodly.
I'll be honest, I don't know how much harder it can get because it's already not put out on shelves.
Mm-hmm. It's always an allocated special thing.
Yeah, it's already one of those things where you got to be lucky, or you got to hit it at a raffle, or you got to know somebody, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's already as heavily allocated as it's going to get in terms of how it's passed on to the consumer.
Yep.
So maybe there'll be more people trying to get it, but at this point, I don't think that even really matters.
It'll drive up secondary.
Because everybody's already trying to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's going to be people that weren't trying to get it, and then they saw it on Yellowstone.
Yeah, and then they're going to go to their store, to their local liquor spot, whether it's a grocery store or a liquor store or whatever, and they're going to be like, hey, where's the Weller 12? And they're gonna laugh
and they're
about
going
the
to get
store,
laughed out of there.
and then they're never going to try and get it again.
Possible.
Yeah, can you point me to the Weller 12 aisle, please?
What you got there?
So I'm sipping on kind of a hodgepodge of things here. There's the warm-up pour. I am going to be drinking Still Austin Cash Strength tonight. I don't know if any of y'all have had it, but
Negative.
it is really good. Let's see. This one is 118 proof. Let me see. Aged at least 2 years.
At least 2
Yeah,
years.
so pretty young stuff, but I don't know what they're doing over there. But the Still Austin Cash Strength is really good. I like it a lot. So that's what we got here for now. So let's jump in to this shit.
Let's do this. So right off the bat, stellar weekend for George Russell.
All the way
victory.
around, like that, probably his best weekend. I mean, obviously because he won, but
all around.
I mean,
man,
just the whole weekend he had it.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Before we even go further down that road, how about how shocking it was to see the Mercedes be that strong on the straights?
Yeah,
maybe not even that strong, but not weak.
Not as far back.
They weren't. Really, it wasn't a crutch for them.
It was just in general. I mean, typically, the straights have really been hard on them,
especially at a place like this where it's like
where it's a long
2/3 of the track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, dude, just in general, the level of pace out of the Mercedes was the best it's been yet. Obviously, yes, there were some situational, some circumstances that gave them an upper hand, but they still had good pace regardless. Like they still had better pace this weekend than they had, they had good pace at Austin.
So here's the thing, like we've been seeing their pace kind of trend up and up and up and up and up for the last third of the season, I think you could say. Is when they kind of started to turn a corner. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what race it was, but all of a sudden you kind of felt like their podium contention was real opposed to happenstance because somebody in the other four screwed something up.
Right.
But we had we can notice that they're getting faster, but we kept having all these crazy circumstances where we really didn't have like legit comparisons because like in Coda, we thought they were really strong, but Max dominated, even though he had like a 12-second pit stop. They still didn't have anything for him, and he still won by, double-digit seconds.
Yeah.
And Carlos got booted out of the race, and
in Coda too, like to be fair to the Mercedes pace,
back.
Hamilton was running on the hard tires that last stint in Coda, and I don't recall, but I don't think anybody else was. So like there was also a little bit of that too, like tire choice in comparison.
But I think this year, aside from a couple races where like a certain tire was just terrible, I feel like it's hard to kind of loop the tires in to a like, oh, this tire is worse than this tire, because the cars are so, like, this being the kind of first year and the way that they're developing and the way some are so hard on the tires and the way some are so easy on the tires, like, I feel like you can't really like compare that, because like we've seen instances like this race. If you look, everybody struggled on those medium tires.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos Sainz, before he got that tear off in the first stint, was running down once he got around Lando on the medium tires that everybody hated and said was terrible. He was running down Russell and Checo in front of him, and then he got that tear off stuck and his brakes started overheating. That's why he had to pit early.
Yeah.
But he was faster on those medium tires than they were on the softs. So, like,
Yeah.
I guess,
well, and then
like,
and
my
then
point is, like, everybody's kind of different in the way they work tires and the way that what tire is better for each.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I
like,
mean,
more so than normal this year.
I mean, they still play a large role, as we've talked about and bitched about a lot. You know, they play way too large of a role.
They play a tremendous role.
I get what you're saying.
But that's kind of like a different point than what I was making.
Yeah.
Like,
and hell, I mean,
a hard
also
tire might work better, might work equally as good on the Mercedes as the medium does on the Red Bull, or vice versa, or whatever. I'm just saying, like, it kind of varies.
Yeah. And hell, I mean, on that same topic of Carlos, his last stint before the safety car, he was on some getting aged mediums, and I'm trying to remember looking at the time gaps, but I don't think he was losing any ground. He wasn't. I don't think he was running anybody down, but I think he was holding his own on those mediums as compared to everybody else on the softs.
Lewis was closing him down, but Lewis had just recently pitted with softs.
Yeah.
So Carlos had like old mediums, and Lewis had, I think they were a used set, but still relatively new softs on.
Yeah.
But I mean, an absolutely stellar weekend for Mercedes.
Yep.
They kind of came through.
All the other circumstances aside, they had pace. It was real. It was there.
This is the first time I feel confident in saying the pace was real. I still would have loved to see the full race where them just racing at the front with the other teams without. I mean, Checo's the only one that didn't have something crazy happen to kind of set him back.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know my feeling on him. He's a great number 2, and that's all he'll be, because he cannot hang at the front. And we'll get into more of his shit a little further down the road here, but I mean, I think this race was a perfect example of kind of what I've been saying about him, is like, he had a golden opportunity to shine. Max was, knocked out and had all kind of issues. Lewis didn't have near the issues Max had, but nonetheless, removed himself from in front of Checo and opened the door up for Checo to have, be the guy, right?
Yeah,
for Red Bull.
Couldn't capitalize.
And I mean, wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, we'll get into that a little bit deeper here in a bit. So yeah, I mean, again.
But anyway, back to my original point.
Congrats to Russell.
Back to my original point. I just would have loved to see I want to see Mercedes just up there with everybody and have it be a 3 team fight and legit see, because we still don't know like kind of how they stack up, because there's been so many crazy things happening. There's so much offset going on,
Mm-hmm.
because like even though Ferrari, which kudos to them, by the way, in the way they managed and did serious damage control here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they were still offset and didn't have ideal situation, because they had to throw on like they got so offset by the pit stops having to go early. They still didn't have great tires to throw on at the end, which, so I mean, it is what, I don't know. I just think I want to see it. Hopefully in Abu Dhabi, we'll see it so we got an idea of what we're looking at going into next
Mm-hmm.
year, where
Yeah,
we can see
man,
it like
it'd be very nice to have the closer be
a three
incident
team.
free and just see the three of them up at the front duking it out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, really kind of show us what we've got to look forward to next year, because dude, there is no doubt, and we've said this from the beginning, that Mercedes would get there. Like we knew that,
Yeah.
right?
That's
It
what
was
we
just
hope for in the
it was
beginning.
just a matter of time. We just didn't know what that matter of time was.
In the
But
beginning, we said
it's clear that
by the end of the
they
year,
are getting back.
can they be in a position by the end of the year to
Mhm.
where they will pose a legitimate challenge next year?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they started the season so far on the back foot that it took them, 2/3 of the season to kind of get back to zero almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then once they did, and we started seeing, that's when we started seeing their progression back up towards the top four or the top two teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, clearly they have got some things figured out, and they are going to be in contention. Abu Dhabi is going to be interesting, but
I wanted
more
to look
on
this up before. When was the last season that we had 3 teams have a 1-2 finish?
that. I don't know.
I can't remember. I'm usually pretty sharp on things like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I feel like they may have had a shot at it in like the 2000 to 2004, 2005 era, where you kind of always had like 3 or 4, even 4 teams that could legitimately win at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
Ferrari won a lot, but there's kind of a misconception on how dominant that was, because they won 5 in a row. They were, with the exception of a couple of years, they were fighting it out every week in and week out. I mean, you had Williams that could win.
Yep.
Because they had Ralph and they had Juan Pablo
Ralph and
Montoya,
Yep.
who was a savage.
Mm-hmm.
And on his day, Ralph could be insanely quick. You had McLaren with Mika and DC, and then DC and Kimi.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Renault with Fernando. I don't know about them with the 1-2 until we got to like 2005, but because Fisichella and Trulli, they were kind of hot and cold.
Yeah.
But I feel like before, like you could have had, the Williams could have easily 1-2'd. McLaren's definitely 1-2'd.
Yeah, they did.
It's just a matter of if it was put together in the same season or not.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. So, Russell had a great weekend. Hamilton, I mean, overall by by finishing position. Had a great weekend. A little more rocky though.
A little more eventful.
Yeah. So I guess let's just get right to the topic with talking about Hamilton. I don't remember what actual lap it was, but it was early on. It was the safety car restart. Him and Max go side by side into one. Max gets ahead through one. The way the turns kind of fall into each other. Exiting one into two. Lewis is nosed ahead a little bit. They go into two and call it just like it was. He squeezed the shit out of Max and left him no room, put him up onto the sausage curb, which caused a collision between them two. If you ask me, 100% should have been a penalty to Lewis, not to Max. Somehow the stewards see it the other way, but I think all the rest of us saw it differently.
I mean, even Sky Sports saw it differently.
Yeah, when Martin Brundle called it against Lewis.
And Crofty agreed with him.
Yeah, that's when you know, like, oh shit, like maybe he actually was wrong. And the steward should have been listening to that.
I don't know, like, everybody likes to make Max the bad guy, right? And it's easy to do because he's just like a kind of in-your-face, brash, like, I don't give a shit, say what you want, I don't care kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. Like, I kind of dig that. I like that. Because I think they're less and less of his kind in sports, but all of the greatest of the greats in history, a significant amount of them have been like that. MJ was ruthless. And I think Lewis is like that. But he just draws a line at the garage door with it. And when he crosses that line, he's got a PR face that he puts on, and Max doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I feel like everybody always comes at Max and is like, hey, Max races Lewis different. He goes at him harder. He goes at him harder. And that, I don't know if there's weight to that. Maybe there was last year, but I don't necessarily think it was anything personally with Lewis. I think it was just because he had to do that in order to win. And I don't think it's necessarily any different with any other color car. And if, like, let's just take what happened this weekend with Checo and put it on the side and not equate it to this statement, but it wouldn't be any different if it was his teammate and they had what he wanted. I think he races everybody kind of the same way and very aggressive. But I think if you're going to pose that question to Max, it also has to be posed to Lewis. Because, and look, I think there were times where Max maybe got a little more aggressive with Lewis, but that's only because of what it meant. But that being said, it definitely comes the other way too. Lewis definitely races Max in a different manner.
Mm-hmm.
There was zero room, and I don't feel like either one of them were in a position to where they would have had to concede. But Max put himself in position where that is not a separate corner. That is turn 1 and 2 in those S's is a continuation of each other. And Lewis knew Max was going to be where he was. There's absolutely no way around it. Lewis has been in this sport for 15 years and had God knows how many overtakes there. He knew, shit, he probably had 20 just last year.
Yeah.
He knew Max was going to be there, and he slammed the fucking door.
Yeah. Well, and like, man, if you're gonna try to run him, squeeze him out, pinch him off, whatever, make him cut the corner, and then that's gonna cause him to have to forfeit the position or forfeit any time or any of that. Like, man, you can't
do it the way Checo did it to Carlos.
Well, that's not gonna work there with those damn sausage curbs on the inside.
Right.
Like by you trying to do that, if that's what the motive was, because it sure as hell seemed like that's what the motive was, stuff him through the inside, and then he's forced to not get the position. You did it to yourself. You put him up on those sausage curbs, which, yeah, he's going to try to avoid those. He's not just going to shortcut the corner to avoid you at that point, because he doesn't want to go over those sausage curbs. That's going to destroy the car.
Again, why do we still have these stupid sausage curves in Formula One?
I don't know.
But, Lewis could have easily done exactly what Checo did to Carlos Sainz at the end when Carlos had, it was a little bit different. Carlos kind of made Checo defend the inside to where he got a bad entrance, which kind of wrecked his whole corner, set him up, did the over-under thing, not passing him. But
you mean where Checo moved 2, maybe 3 times? That one? Yeah, it was that one.
Maybe. I know he did that to Alonso.
Was that
that was Alonso, what you're talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about, Carlos set him up really nice. It was a beautiful move. Set him up, acted like he was going to pass outside, and then did the dip, over under, and set him up to just rock. And he was rocking it around him on that exit of 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Onto that back straight, and Checo legit squeezed him out.
Yeah.
And I think they even touched.
I think they did.
And that's the kind of stuff this year that Checo has been not, I don't know, man. He's been a little more brash and a little more abrasive than what I care for. Something before I forget, because I thought about this. Everybody says Checo's like the tire whisperer and all that, and he's great at making tires last.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed, I think that's very true, but what I think it gets him is when he has to race hard with people. I don't think he controls the tires very well, because I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but there's ways of doing it where people still have great racing with people and make their tires last. And I think Checo's kind of one end or the other. If you tell him to conserve and make these tires last, he's going to do it. But if you tell him to go get somebody and put down some laps, he's going to shred them. And I think that is kind of where a lot of his pace issues have come this year.
When it's time to get after it.
When you got to put down some laps, he can't make the tires last.
Right.
When you just need to do when you got a fast car and you can babysit the tires and make them go and go and go, he can do it. And he's the best at it.
When you're generally that far off the pace of your teammate, you're probably going to make your tires last longer than he is,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, back to the original topic. Max getting the penalty there was complete bullshit.
It was
Right?
egregious.
No,
That was an egregious
no way
penalty.
around it. Should not have been doled out that way. But is what it is. Max got hurt a lot more on that than Lewis did. But hell, I mean, Max,
Even without the penalty.
yeah. Max did a damn good job of climbing his way back. Lewis had to work his way back some as well, just not quite as far.
He started.
He
I think he was about 10 seconds off the lead.
Yeah.
When it was said and done.
Mm-hmm.
And he essentially maintained that gap, maybe pulled a little bit of it back. But I mean, just overtook everybody in his path in between him and George.
Yeah.
But I mean, George, I don't think George was going to be beat, dude. And you could see when it mattered, George had that extra pace.
He did.
When he needed it, he put it down. He drove a masterful race.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you this, dude. If that's what we have to look forward to, good luck with number 8, Lewis. And Charles and Carlos. Because Max, if all three teams are just as competitive, this doesn't benefit anybody more than Max Verstappen.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? Checo ain't hanging with his stuff. Nobody can hang with his stuff in Red Bull. So you got 2 legit dudes in Mercedes. You got 2 legit dudes in Ferrari. And then you have
Max. Which, on that time, not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but kind of going off of that.
Well, let's talk about it. I know that's what everybody wants to hear about anyway.
I think. Well, no, I'm not even going to the end of the race. Yeah. Kind of just continuing on where you were going with having, 2 awesome drivers in Ferrari, 2 awesome drivers in Mercedes, and then 1 in Red Bull that just cannot keep that same pace as what everybody else can.
Mm-hmm.
If Mercedes is back at the pointy end next year and competing week in and week out, I think you'll see Checo out of there with a quickness, to be honest. I mean, yeah, he plays a good number 2 role, but if your 2 nearest competitors both have 2 dogs in the fight and you only have 1, you're going to do what you have to do to get 2 in there.
This is what I've been saying, and everybody's been hammering me about it because Max has just been so dominant this year, it hasn't mattered. He's been able to help here and there and blah, 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 all that. Yeah. Oh, Checo, you're responsible for his 2 championships. But when it comes down to it, he is going to be like we're talking about next year when shit matters. And you need that dude. You need your teammate, not as Max, but as Red Bull in terms of constructors. You need that second car to be able to hang in there and not necessarily hang with Max, because that's a unrealistic ask. But you need them to be able to fight for the podium.
Yeah.
And if Ferrari doesn't, just absolutely, sit on a stick and Mercedes is back, Checo can't hang in that pack. You're going to be looking at P6.
At that point, his days will be numbered.
And, everybody's been giving me shit about it, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what I've been saying, is that it's not a problem this year, but it will be.
It will be moving forward.
Max could have damn near won the constructors on his own this year. I'll look that up real quick. Could he have?
Probably not far from it, but
all right. Ferrari had 524. No, Max got 429. Damn near.
Yeah, not far from it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that was why I wasn't a fan of the re-signing when it happened, the long-term extension. I'll say long-term. I guess 2 years is long-term in F1.
These days, yeah.
For a number 2 driver anyway.
Right.
But it's a problem, man. It's going to be Red Bull will finish third in the constructors next year if the other 2 teams, Max might win the world championship and they'll finish third in the constructors if the other 2 teams have their shit together.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Checo being a contributor is going to be even more important next year because Red Bull's wind tunnel CFD time is not only are they going to have the least because they won the constructors this year, add on their penalty percentage that they're losing. So, dude, Checo being able to contribute week in and week out next year for them to maintain a decent constructors position is going to be critical because they are going to be coming in a little bit on the back foot.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess look, we're already we skipped over Ferrari kind of out of order. We're already on Red Bull. So, let's go ahead and get into the Red Bull topic and then we'll circle back to Ferrari.
Cool.
So
I'll let you lead that because you have a much bigger problem with it than me.
I do. I have a massive problem with it. And I'm going to just assume that if you're listening to this, if you have any contact with the F1 world, then you know exactly what happened. So the problem that I have with it is that Max.
Say what you're what we're about to get into.
All right, so end of the race. Checo is in front of Max. Alonso is in front of Checo.
More importantly, Leclerc is right in front of Alonso.
Yes. Max was closing Checo down. He closed him down and was there.
Shocking.
Checo was not making any headway on Alonso. So it was decided that he was to let Max bide and not fight him and let him have a go at Alonso. In return, if he did not get Alonso, they would flip the positions back. At which point, on the last lap, Max was told, hey, if you don't get Alonso by 12, let Checo back by. Turn 12 comes. Max, give Checo the position back. Max, let Checo by. And then Max crosses the line in front of Checo and has a response of, and I'm sure I'm not going to get this exactly, but his response was, I've told you this before. I've told you my reasons. I told you before, don't ask me again. I have my reasons and I stand by them.
I gave you my reasons.
I gave you my reasons and I stand by them. So, few things. Clearly, there is a grudge of some sort. Something previously, it has been alluded to that it comes back to Monaco. I don't know how much I really believe that. That's a whole other thing. Nonetheless,
I
the
don't
problem.
think that is true with Checo, but if you put your tinfoil hat on and you go watch it, you can make it make sense. But I just kind of can't buy it.
Yeah, I don't. And there's things out there that show the telemetry readings and lap comparisons. And look, anybody can make a telemetry graph look like that. Did they actually get a hold of the legit telemetry from Red Bull? I don't really think so, but maybe. Who knows? Um, Looking at the lap comparisons, you can hear the same engine note from all the other drivers that they show. However, it does not sound like a throttle blip from the other drivers because they didn't lose traction and the throttle just accelerated. But
To me, it's not about the blip. When you watch
What
it, it's where it
well,
was
Checo
applied.
was like a millisecond earlier on the throttle, and that's what did it. He had too much steering input still at that point, and I think that's what did it. But back to what happened this weekend, Max acted like a child. I don't care what your grudge is, dude. I really don't. You won your second world championship title. The team locked down the constructors. You have no reason to hold a grudge. You have no reason to be pissed off about anything. That team is built around you, is catered to you, is waiting on you hand and foot. Play the team game and help your teammate try to secure that second place in the drivers' championship. Like, quit being a selfish ass and play the team game. You have nothing to lose. It's not like you're giving up the win. You're giving up, what was it, sixth place?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, who gives a shit whether you're sixth or seventh at that point? But guess what? Checo did give a shit because every point mattered. Hence the reason that you heard Charles asking them to swap him and Carlos, because every point matters then, which I agree with Ferrari for not swapping them. We'll get into that when we talk about Ferrari. But I don't know, dude. I have a massive problem with the way Max handled all of that. And then, I don't know, dude, the way he talked to his engineer about it, the way he gave his answer, like, it was in a very demeaning kind of way.
I disagree. That's not
And
the right word.
The way that I
That's not the right
it,
word.
In a belittling kind of way.
No.
He was
same
talking,
word,
it
same
was,
meaning, different word.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't.
He was talking at him. Like, I don't agree with any of the way that Max handled that.
That's fine, but I do not think it was demeaning, belittling, anything like that. It was essentially like, bro, we've had this conversation already. I told you what was going to happen.
Well, and that's the one
Stop
thing I didn't
asking
mention.
me about it.
So you say you took
That's
it
the impression I get.
as we had this conversation, right? But the way Max said it was, I told you, which leads me to believe that it was not a conversation, right? I get the impression that Max, in his infinite times of being pissed off and being maybe a bit childish at times, told them and that was the end of it. I don't get the impression there was any understanding that he was not going to do it, that there was any conversation had. I think it was a one-way conversation, and that was the end of it. I highly doubt that it was understood by the team that if they asked him to, he was going to just blatantly ignore it.
Well, if it wasn't understood by the team, that might be their first lack of awareness all season. Because if they don't know anything about Max, aside from he is as blunt can get, and say what, and a dude that just says what he means and means what he says, like I'm because I'm telling you, the way he responded was like, dude, I already told you what was going to happen in this situation. Don't ask me about it again. So for them to assume differently is on them.
Or is it? How do you know that it was them that made the wrong assumption and that Max was just never very clear about it? Like, let's be
I'm
realistic
just
here.
saying, like, going from his response, none of us will ever know. I'm just
Right.
saying, like, going from his response, the way he said that to me indicates he has made it abundantly clear, like, bro, we've had this discussion before. I told you what was going to happen. Don't ask me again.
So
I told you my reasons. So, like, to me, that's like he's discussed it with somebody.
why would he wait till after he's crossed the finish line? Why would he not have said that when they were swapped and it was told to them that if you don't get Alonso, we'll swap y'all back?
It did. I don't see, that's the thing too. I'm not certain that message came across to Max until it was like halfway through the last lap. Like, I don't, because they said
They
like
told
played
Checo very quickly. I
They
don't
did.
see why they
They told
wouldn't
Checo,
tell.
but their message to Max was, "All right, Max, go get points off of Alonso and Leclerc."
Yeah,
That's it.
as far as we know.
I went dig, like, I don't, the F1 TV
So what
thing doesn't
and
work good for me over here. It doesn't
Yeah.
allow me, for whatever reason, this area is blacked out, so I can't go back and listen to, like, I don't have like their broadcast on demand on the
Yeah.
radio transmissions, which would be
So here's
amazing.
one thing I've
But
kind
I
of
hadn't been
always
able to
wondered.
find it.
Yeah, I've always wondered though, do we really get access to all of the radio transmission?
I believe so.
You know?
If you have that, I believe so. Like, I believe you can go and listen to, like, the entire race through the
Mhm.
radio, of which, I mean, it would just be a lot of nonsense, but
Yeah.
it is, from what I understand, it is open radio lines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, man, I see your side of it. I see where you're coming from, but I do not agree.
Look, my
I
thing
think he
is,
handled it like a complete fucking child.
I don't think it was like, I don't think he handled it like a child. I feel like that there was a wrong assumption on Red Bull. Like, I feel like they didn't take him seriously in whatever he said whenever he said it.
I mean,
And
man,
that's the thing too.
honestly,
Like I said before we got on here, we don't know when he said what he said.
mhm.
It
Yeah,
could have,
and
like we
there's a
talked about,
huge piece of this missing.
It could have been something last year that happened that pissed him off, and he's like, "Listen, this was bullshit. Whenever it comes around again, this, like, I'm not going to forget this." And this might have been the first time it happened. And Red Bull forgot, but he did not.
I have to assume that, dude, if whatever it was that pissed him off, if it was really as big of a deal as Max is making it appear to be, and that he made as big of a deal as what he is leading us on to think that he made, I have to believe that they would not have forgotten about that. Like if he was that pissed off and it was such a huge ordeal, whatever it was that happened, I find it hard to believe that the team would have forgotten about that. You know,
I don't
like
know.
if it was like a one little thing, you know, and it was like a, you know,
Maybe
whatever,
we'll
like
find out on Drive to Survive. Maybe they're
mm,
behind the scenes stuff called, I don't know, probably
yeah,
not,
probably not,
because
but
they catch every single thing
except the
except
important
for the
shit.
one thing. No, like
Yeah,
the one thing. Like, why couldn't we hear what Toto said
yeah,
last year in the garage when there's cameras and mics everywhere?
mm-hmm.
Why
Yep,
couldn't we hear that?
yeah.
We
We
heard
had
what he
video
said
of
on
it.
the, yeah, exactly.
It'll probably be the same thing with all this. We'll have the video of whatever it was. We won't have any sound, no audio.
I know.
But I mean, you know, there's going to be things coming out. I mean, for a while that just keep fueling this fire.
So while we're on this topic,
Now
because
there,
look,
well,
honestly, we can't really, like, aside from kind of weighing in our opinions on how we feel about it, we can't really go any deeper. We got into it earlier about it, but we really can't.
yeah,
The face of it, we really can't go any deeper because we don't know. We really don't know what it's about.
mm-hmm.
It could be something completely legitimate that Max has. We just don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It could be
Like,
something insanely childish. We
yeah,
don't know.
mm-hmm. All we
So,
can do is go off the surface here.
right.
Yeah,
So whatever. We each saw it a different way. We each took it a different way. It is what it is. Um, but what? I kind of lost where I was going with this. Give me a second. Damn it. I had an awesome segue and I freaking lost it. Before I wanted to hit it before we moved on from Red Bull. Shit. I'll think of it and I'll throw it
yeah,
in whenever I do.
yeah. It'll come back to you at some point. There was one other thing I was gonna loop into that as well. I kind of did the same thing, but yeah. So that's what it is. Go with it
I
before you
remember.
forget it.
Checo responsible for Max 2 championships. I
Oh
feel
yeah,
like that needs to be discussed here.
here's the discussion. Bullshit.
So, and this is the point that I was making earlier that I think you're reading into it the wrong way that really caused some serious contention between us.
Never.
There all of a sudden there's been a lot made of the way I'm taking it is Checo being a lot better than what he has been. That's the way I perceive what is being said, because that's what's being said. And let's get something clear. There has hardly been a time when Checo, on any given day, Checo has been the faster driver than Max and has conceded his position to Max for the championship. I don't really remember one where he was legitimately faster and just gave up his position to Max for the championship.
Yeah, no, and there was not. There has been times where he ended up in front and he did not fight Max on Max's blaze through the field.
Which is
There
what
was
you do when you are not in contention for the championship and the guy coming through is significantly faster than you.
well, the teammate coming through.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like
Playing the
your guy
teammate.
coming through is significantly
Well,
faster than
that's an
you.
important part. The teammate coming through, because if
Yeah.
you're not my teammate, I don't give a shit who you are and how much faster you
Well,
are. I'm
sure,
gonna do
sure.
my damn
No,
self.
of course.
Um,
Of course. But
but yeah, like
you know,
look,
and like
and I think
there's
you,
been numerous times when yes, Checo has been a great teammate and allowed Max no resistance to pass through. When Max was a second, closing him down at a second and a half plus a lap. And it's like, let's not act like you would have stood a chance. Especially with Max. Like Max is a different breed of overtaker. Like he will get you. Period.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
he is not, and look at it like time and time again when something bad happens to him and he gets punted down the field, bro, he is relentless. Like the way he just storms back through the field, it's so impressive, man. Like there's like you never see him get stuck. You know, like DRS trains almost don't apply to him. He just he wrecks the field, dude. Like nothing. It's like they're standing still.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, in regards to Checo, like yes, there has been times where, like you said, he put up no resistance to Max making his way through. Which does that help Max in the grand scheme? Were you helping Max on his way to a win or whatever it may be? Yes, but and you had said this earlier before we got on here, and it's absolutely true. Would you really have hindered that win had you attempted to fight Max? Probably not. Like even if he had to work around Checo the same way he had to work around everybody else, would it really have cost Max the win?
no, you'd have been another notch on the bedpost, bro.
Yeah, like he would have still gotten around him. Like all he did was gave Max a little bit of a breather, and he just didn't have to work as hard for that one. But he'd have had it no matter what. So like you really didn't. I mean, I'm sure if you go back through every instance, I'm sure there's maybe a couple where, all right, maybe if he had held him up a little bit, fought with him, maybe it would have brought somebody closer at the end of the race. And it maybe could have, like, I'm sure you could find that narrative somewhere. But to be real about it, he wasn't hindering him at all.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, you could go back and find some instances, right, where he like played this massive teammate role and gave Max his toe, helped him out with Lewis and this and that. But the fact of the matter is, most of those times it was when Max had made a pit stop and Checo had not, and Max was repassing him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that.
That's generally when Checo was
30 seconds off the pace.
Right.
Like, so let's not act like you were actually occupying the same piece of asphalt here and what you were racing for.
Yeah.
Like as soon as that happened, you ducked into the pits and then we're even further down.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the way the narratives go, man, it's not accurate to what actually happens. Like now all of a sudden everybody's team Checo and wants to go against Max, and I just think that's preposterous, man.
Yeah,
like something. I applaud the fact that Max doesn't put all this private shit out in the public and in the in all these journalists' hands. Mm-hmm. I love that. From somebody that talks on a podcast, sure, it'd be great to know, but I like the fact that he's just a real dude. Like, I'm not spilling our dirty laundry.
Yeah.
You know, uh, um, I just love how cut and dry he is, man. It's nice to see. I like it.
I do agree with you. I do. Um, you know, and you're right. Like a lot of people, because of this incident, are just all of a sudden all about Team Checo. Which, look, I, as stated before, I do have a problem with the way Max handled this, but that problem is an issue that I take with the way Max handled this. This is not a me jumping on, oh, you should have given, return the favor to Checo. He gave you 2 championships. By no means is this that. I just think, he
If
could have handled
Checo's
this much better.
delusional enough to think that Max would not have won this year without him, they should probably have him evaluated.
Right.
Max would have won this year with Latifi as his teammate.
More than likely. Yes.
Look, last year Checo did a lot more teammate things for Max than he did this year, because the first half of the season Checo was performing a lot better and he wasn't doing team orders things.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden Max goes win, 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 win. And you're like, holy shit, Max is running away with this thing. Like, I don't know where this year Checo thinks he, like, put the championship on a platter for Max.
Yeah.
That's just, it's a delusional statement. I think the things that he did last year were very supportive. And I don't know, I'd have to go back. Like, maybe there was a win or here or there. I don't remember last year if there was legitimately a win that Checo wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for something Checo did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. I'd have to go back and watch. But the one that he is kind of famous for is in Abu Dhabi. And as insane of defense and clean defense at that as it was for as long as it was, as how much faster Lewis was than him, it really didn't change anything.
No, at the end of it all, it didn't really
because
amount
Max
to
never
anything.
got in front of Lewis because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Max wouldn't have gained any more time, they'd have wound up in the same exact spot.
Right. Yep.
So Checo, he needs to look in the mirror and kind of have a heart to heart and be like with himself and be like, look, dude, Max did that shit himself. Yeah, there's been times that I helped out and did my part as a teammate, but I mean, bro, I don't know, man. That when I read that, I was like, Jesus Christ, bro, this shit is getting out of control and off the rails.
Yeah.
Checo's lost it.
That definitely took it a little far. No doubt.
Maybe he's just trying to ride the wave of support.
Hey, maybe so.
Yeah, bro. I mean, technically, I won those championships. It's like on the trophy, it's going to say Max / Checo.
Yeah, right. Max because of Checo.
Right.
So, all right, that's that. Let's get on back into our regularly scheduled programming.
Circle back.
Yeah.
To the Scuderia.
Yep. Let's talk about Ferrari. And let's talk about So we talked about how Max generally storms back through the pack, which didn't really happen this race. And Leclerc didn't put on like a storm back through the pack either. But
Well, no, because they had to pit like 4 times.
yeah, right. But nonetheless, he did make his way back through the pack better than Max did. And Ferrari actually did a very good job. Now, we're not going to loop this into qualifying and tire choice. That was a whole calculated risk that it was just a miscalculation.
Yeah, we
It
had
wasn't really a botched thing. It was a
I think
trying
it.
to
I think it was one of those things like they're sitting there. They got all this high tech radar equipment, and they're like, "Dude, we think this shit's gonna hit mid hot lap. So let's put him on inners, and he's gonna have a banger lap when everybody else is gonna be spinning and out of control, and we're gonna, we're gonna be the only one prepared for a actual hot lap."
yeah.
And it just didn't play out like that. Like
The logic was there.
yeah, I get the logic. I understand what
know,
they're trying to do, but like, I just don't feel like you have the best qualifying car in the field. Like, why? Why do you need to do tricks like that? Like, that's a trick that K Mag should have pulled.
Right. Which
not actually, but you know what I mean. Like, that's when he sneaks into the top 10 or Q3. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you do if you're a Williams or a Haas or
right.
In whoever that doesn't belong, typically doesn't get there.
Yeah, yeah. So aside from that, Ferrari did a great job actually of handling all of this today
With 2 cars.
Right, between Leclerc and his issue with Lando, and nosing
Dude,
in
more
than nosing.
How shocked were you? Hey, dude, he hit that wall.
He hit the barrier hard, dude. Dude, it was just one of those.
Whenever I saw it, I'm like, "Fuck, he's done."
Yeah, well, that's what I thought.
He's done. Here we go, another safety car.
And then, dude, I saw it go green flag, and I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
and then they said they're like, he's back out. He's driving. Like, holy shit! I mean, that was quite astonishing. But yet again, dude, and we've talked about, right? Like, the right impact, these cars are tough as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But that right impact is so very, very little of a window that everything else just destroys it.
Bro, it looked to me like he whapped that suspension.
Yeah, I thought so.
Like, I was waiting for it.
I was waiting
to
for
break
a gearbox
at any point.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the front suspension, dude.
I was waiting because the rear slapped.
I know what you mean with that, but I'm talking about like the way that front, like the nose hit and then kind of wrapped in. But like, dude, I mean, that front suspension took a lick.
Yeah, it did.
And it had an awkward angle on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, you've seen like that carbon fiber is insanely strong in certain directions. In other directions, it's brittle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But no, you're right. I mean,
I mean, look, they did a great job with
they managed their way out of a thing that I think 3 months ago would have crippled them.
Yeah.
They'd have stroked out.
Mm-hmm.
Having to think their way through that one.
Yeah, having to deal with the freak thing of Carlos getting a tear off stuck in his brake duct, and then also dealing with Leclerc and that issue. Like, they did a very, very good job of working through that. Which, on the topic of the tear off in Carlos's brake duct, Martin Brundle brought something up, and I'm generally not inclined to agree with him most of the time. But he brought up that at one point they used to have I think he had just called it like a glove box inside the car. When they would pull the tear off their visor, they would stick it in the car somewhere, some little compartment or bag or whatever was in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think something like that needs to happen because
Mm-hmm.
these tear offs are becoming more and more of a problem. Like, you never used to see this stuff before. Like, dude, growing up, do you ever remember a tear off being a problem?
You would see him go into the radiator ducts from time to time,
And it seemed like it,
but like
even
you,
then, like,
yeah, like it didn't seem like it ever really
yeah,
like ended
yeah. But,
things
dude,
or
over,
caused catastrophic problems.
yeah, like they have caused a number of problems recently. Um, I absolutely agree with what Brundle was saying about needing something like whatever they used to use, in the cockpit to put these things in instead of just letting them fly outside the car.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because Carlos's race being compromised by a tear off getting sucked up into his brake duct should not be a thing.
You're right. I agree with that, and that's happened. I don't know, just from memory, 4 or 5 times this year. And like before, the last few years, you've seen them where they would get stuck like on these winglets, because these cars had
Mm-hmm.
like 1,000 little winglets all over them. You
Yeah.
see them get stuck on a winglet or on a front wing or a rear wing or what, you know, something sticking off the side of the car. But now there's none of that nonsense on the car. So essentially, like the car just sucks it up and directs it straight into the freaking brake duct in the back
Mm-hmm.
on whichever side it's on.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely something that needs to be addressed. So, and man, as for on the topic of swapping driver positions with Ferrari, um, I completely agree with their decision to not swap. I understand completely where Leclerc was at with wanting it to be wanting them to look at it for every point possible in the championship. 100% agree. But what they had told him was it's too risky, which I think was very true. With Alonso being so close behind, had Carlos slowed up to allow him by, now Carlos is off pace, and Alonso, being the wily old coyote that he is, I'd be willing to bet would have found a way to capitalize on that.
So
And now you've risked Carlos losing 2 positions. Not only did you just steal a podium from him, but it I think it very well could have compromised another position for him.
all right. So if second place in the constructors, I mean in the drivers for Charles is important to Ferrari as a team, then which I think it is optics wise.
I think it is optics wise coming off of the previous seasons.
No, not even that. For how fast their car was, for them to not have either one of their drivers in the second spot, I think would be a massive disappointment because when you look at speed, Checo really hasn't. Checo's reliability of his Red Bull has been what's kept him there,
Mm-hmm.
not his speed, but the fact that as fast as those Ferraris were, you couldn't beat Checo. I think that looks really bad. Like in their world, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like to the
Yeah.
people I think that matters a lot. So with that being said, like, I think that there would have been, I don't think the podium at this point should matter. It's not like you're taking away. Like, I kind of get it, but at the same time, like, it's not like you're taking away Carlos's first podium or first whatever. Like, at this point, both your drivers are seasoned and winners and pole sitters and multiple podium getters. Like, that shit's out the window. You know, like that's a third place for what they have their sights set on. They shouldn't give a shit about. A win, yeah. Like, unless it's the last race and it means the difference, sure. Like, you don't take that away. But how much, if you're Ferrari and second place in the drivers means something to you, how much nicer would it be to go in there and be able to finish one place behind Checo in Abu Dhabi and tie him and win on the fact that because I believe the first tiebreaker is who has more race wins.
Yeah.
How nice would it be to go in and finish a place behind Checo and still win? That would make me sleep a little easier at night.
Oh, no doubt.
So
no doubt.
I think, like, I understand their thought where it would have been risky to swap them around. However, it would have been so easy to orchestrate Carlos just kind of coasting down the straight and let Charles finish right ahead of him, just like they did essentially in what was that, 2003? 2002 in
was
Indy.
It 2?
At Indy.
Or was it?
I thought it was 2 because I thought it was repaying the whole Austria thing. I'm pretty sure it's 2002.
That was... Look at you go. 2002.
Can't fuck with the police.
You and your dates.
Like, I mean, you could have easily done something. You could have done it like that to where Alonso is not a threat.
They could have.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, yeah, like the optics of it doesn't look great, but like if you wanted to do it, who cares about the optics? Like, it's not going to change anything. People will get over it. People got over Austria. Some people still haven't, but who cares? Look, I'm over it. And you know how much I love Rubens. And I was losing my mind when that happened. Losing, like, irrational behavior out of a teenager, okay? And I got over it. You know, like, the grand scheme of things, I understand it. Do I agree with the way it was done? No. But you, like, at that point in time, you don't know you're going to have one of the most dominant seasons of all time. And there have been multiple times when Ferrari didn't do things like that and lost championships in the past. So, yeah, I get it. And you got, you know, time heals all wounds. Plus, you got great PR people.
Apparently not with Max, it doesn't, but
it will. It'll be fine. It's only been a couple days. It's only been a day.
No. Well, we don't know exactly when.
Yeah.
I missed apparently that. Time doesn't heal it. So, yeah, I mean, I get your thought process. I don't disagree with it, but I do think they made the right call. Dude,
But
and to be honest, I think here's what I think also goes into their decision making, because P2 in the drivers' championship means nothing. It
to the
really doesn't.
team, but to the drivers, it does.
To the driver, well, does it really though? Like to Charles at this point, does it really, knowing that he had a championship winning capable car
Kind of.
when all the pieces stayed where they were supposed to stay?
Well, that's
Like
the thing.
the car that he started the season with was a championship contender. Does anything, like, is there really anything other than winning that matters? Knowing what the possibility, what should have been, like you see what I'm getting at here.
I do see what you're getting at, but at the end of the day, I think this, like we've alluded to before, and how elite of and prestigious these positions are, these seats. I think every position matters in how the drivers finish to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it matters a huge amount. And it matters to the fans more than anything. People can say whatever they want. Nobody gives a shit about the constructors as a fan for the most part. Like the drivers is what strikes the emotion of everyone.
Yeah, the constructors is for the teams and the employees and the funding. The drivers' championship is for the fans.
Right, but even still, like the drivers' championship is the most prestigious.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like last year, let's say, I mean, just look at last year as a perfect example. Red Bull takes the drivers, Mercedes takes the constructors. Was Mercedes elated about taking the constructors?
Nope.
No, they were not. They were pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Red Bull was celebrating like it was 1999.
Yep. Yeah.
And Mercedes looked like they were in 1999 with Windows computers. So the drivers' championship just matters more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just does. And to everybody except the people stroking the checks, it matters more.
Yeah, no doubt. But what I think also goes into play is, and I mean, the more I think out what I'm about to say, it really doesn't fit. But they also have to think of keeping both drivers as happy as could be after the year they've put them dudes through, right? So, Carlos was, I'm going to say outdrove, not necessarily outdrove, because he didn't really outdrive him, because Leclerc had some unfortunate circumstances that dropped him back. But for lack of a better term, he outperformed standings wise is where I'm going with this. All race long, and then to take that away from him and just gut him like that,
he was
again,
higher up in the order, but you can't say outperformed or outdrove.
That's exactly what I
like
said,
that.
though. That's exactly what I said. For lack of a better term, because of unfortunate circumstances, that's why I clarified. He didn't necessarily outdrive, but standings wise, outperformed. not wanting to gut him by taking another spot from him. Now at the same time, you just made Leclerc more unhappy, So it's a double-edged sword. Like, you make one of them happy, it's going to upset the other one. You pick the lesser of the two evils, whatever makes more sense, for the team at the time. But
Yeah, I don't know. I mean that was that was a weird situation. Like, I don't blame Leclerc for asking. I don't blame them for not obliging. But at the same time, like, I don't know. Like, I just think about, like, if Charles loses to Checo by 2 points next week. Like, if it's not something that's important to you, then who cares? But I feel like you have your guy that you signed to the longest deal that Ferrari's ever given to any driver. Like, you would want to keep him pretty happy.
right.
And do what you can to get him that number 2 spot. Like, man, I just think, like, they've fucked him over so many times this year. Like,
Yep.
You kind of owed him that. Like, as insignificant as it is, it's significant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, I get, like, oh, we don't want to upset Carlos, but, like, dude, fucking is what it is. He'll get over it. It's not like you took a race win from him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was a tough spot.
I just feel like this kind of leads into the next thing. There are reports out of Italy that Mattia Binotto may not be around for very much longer. According to, I'm sure I'm not going to pronounce his last name how it's supposed to be pronounced, but Leo Torini, who is a very in the know Ferrari or Italian journalist, well integrated into the team, says Binotto's position is at risk and possible replacements are already even being discussed. One of them is Fred Vasseur, who everybody is quite familiar with. The other, maybe not so much, Antonello Coletta. I guess that's how you say it, Coletta. Ferrari's GT racing manager.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to lead this up with something that I noticed this race that I think is a core problem with Leclerc. Maybe they need to look outside of the Ferrari circle. Because I think that circle, that tight-knit circle that, obviously it creates like such a awesome tight-knit group. And the passion is unrivaled and all that. However, it hasn't been working.
Right.
And I noticed something. I've been kind of like on the scent of it and wondering about it, but kind of like wrote it off as like, maybe it's not really a problem. But this race, there was blatant, black and white communication problems between Leclerc and his engineer. I forget his name. On the flip side, you have seamless communication between Carlos and his engineer.
Mm-hmm.
That is a massive freaking problem.
Yes.
That you have a driver who was at one point in the first half of the season was in contention for a world championship, and you have these kind of communication problems. And it's been the whole time that he's been there. And it's always like this little crap where he's got to like explain himself to Charles and come back and have 3 and 4 and 5 radio messages and transmissions to convey a simple point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ridiculous. Like it's unnecessary. And like, I don't know how to say this without sounding like, I don't know, controversial nowadays, but they need to put somebody in there that speaks better English to where there's not this language barrier between the driver and the engineer. Because that's what's happening. It's like, it's very similar to what we saw with Yuki Tsunoda and his engineer early on in his career with AlphaTauri.
Yes.
And it's not as bad as that was, but it's still a problem because, goddamn, what is his engineer's name?
I'll tell you in 2 seconds.
He's not conveying information. It's almost like Charles is extremely fluent in Italian. It's almost like you want to just tell him, like, y'all just speak Italian to each other. Because I feel like he doesn't convey like proper details, and it's almost like he's not aware of it.
Xavier Marcos Padros.
Okay. So Xavier.
He is Spanish.
No.
Yes.
That's a strange Spanish accent. Is it not?
It is.
Either way, he's not great at English when it comes to just on the cuff speaking.
Yeah.
And that is a very strange Spanish accent. That has me perplexed. Is that who talks to him on the radio?
Let's see.
I mean, look, like,
yeah, I mean, it says, I mean,
yesterday
he's the race engineer for him.
Okay.
Let's do this. Yeah. Is that in fact who we're hearing?
So yesterday, Charles had to ask for clarification like multiple times for simple things. And it's just one of those things, man, where you look at it and you're like, really? Like, how is this not being conveyed properly to him and effectively, like one shot? And then you look on Carlos's side, and it's so smooth and seamless. It's like, man, that needs to be addressed. Like, you have to get somebody in there where they're thinking the same thing. You know, and like Charles is just constantly like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Like, you got to get somebody in there, man, where like they are just dialed in together, and that like they just have it, because that's not what's happening now.
Yeah, it's Marcos Padros. Xavier Marcos Padros. That's who he's talking to. I wouldn't have
I would
taken
have
that accent as
never.
Spanish.
I would have never took that as a Spanish accent. Maybe he's Spanish, but has been living in Italy his entire life.
I mean, that's possible. That's entirely possible.
Because that dude, that does not. That has me bothered.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a problem. The communication between the engineer and the driver should not be that difficult. You know, like as much time as they spend together, working together, like for it to still be that type of problem needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Marcos Padres voiced that guy as Charles Leclerc.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Come on, internet. I don't know. I don't want to know his career. I want to know where this dude like give me addresses.
What is this dude's address?
Where has he lived and in what years for the last 10?
Search for like a biography or something.
All right. I'm on Wikipedia. Come on, Wikipedia, do better.
That's usually the information that Wikipedia has that I blow through. Like, I don't give a damn about this when I'm looking for something else.
I know, right?
So, all right. Well, while you're looking for that, we'll keep this ball rolling, and overall, a good race for Ferrari. Um, Another good race for Mr. Alonso coming home in P5. And to be honest with you, um, I was pretty involved in just keeping track of Max and Charles and their climb back through the field and Carlos trying to run down Checo. And like, I didn't, in all honesty, I did not pay a whole lot of attention to how Alonso ended up there. Like, did he just have the pace to be there, or did he capitalize on, you know, some safety cars and pit stop windows, and
Mhm.
it landed him there, and then he was just able to maintain it, or what? Do you recall? Because I honestly don't.
Uh, I'm sorry. I wasn't only listening to like half of what you said. Um, about Alonso.
Yeah,
How he got to where he was.
yeah. I don't recall
He
if his raw pace is what got him there, or if he was able to just kind of capitalize on other things happening, safety cars and pit stop windows and
I think it was a
whatnot.
combination because I mean he started in the back.
Right.
Um, it was just a combination, man. He just played it well. I mean, it's typical Fernando, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
mean he's always gonna pick up spots because he's wily old Fernando.
but he just kind of did his thing and just positioned himself, and it played out properly for him throughout the throughout the day. Um, but he's just kind of it was just kind of one of those typical days for him, man, where you put your car, like you put yourself in the position to capitalize on situations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you're not. He's just kind of one of those guys. Aside from when his machinery just shits the bed, like he just makes his own luck.
Yeah.
You know, like he's just kind of one of those guys, man. And yeah, he's had some shit luck when it comes to championships and how many he should have won, but um just in general, when you're that good, good things happen.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, so he came in P5, Ocon P8.
How about their
Little bit of
little animosity there, huh?
yeah. You picked up on that, huh?
That was in the sprint.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, there was, but
I love the way he alluded to
no,
Ocon.
that was on
Was that in the
the
race?
second safety car restart.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit in the sprint, but no, the large portion of it was the second restart when they were telling Ocon basically to let Alonso through. Try to
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was try to get Vettel, but let Alonso through. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Alonso's on fresher tires. It's like, well, and I mean, I get Ocon's frustration, and it's like, well, which one am I doing? You know, and I don't remember exactly what it was he said.
It was blunt though.
Yeah, yeah, like that's not a side of Ocon that I recall seeing. What else do I feel like?
Yeah, no, they hit each other in the sprint race. But you're right. In the race itself, they absolutely. I'm kind of surprised that they put that they played that, honestly, because it was. I don't know. I guess it's good for TV, but Ocon was adamant that he was not going to be subject to team orders.
Yeah.
And I kind of get it because you're like, I'm staying. This dude's out after next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm your long-term driver here. And you're going to make me just move over? Kick rocks, bro.
Right.
But I feel like that's been his attitude all year. It just finally made it through the radio waves.
Yeah, I mean
We've
you're right.
seen
I mean,
it.
because we've seen that
We just
in
hadn't heard
some
it.
of the things he's done. Hence the reason that there's been pushback from Alonso because of some of the things that Ocon has done. And you're right. Yeah, we just haven't heard it. It's just been seen. Yep.
But I'd be willing to bet it's been being heard behind closed doors.
I
There's
would
a
imagine
reason.
so.
There's a reason why nobody likes this fucking dude.
Mm-hmm.
None of his teammates have ever gotten along with him. They all hate his guts.
Yep. Yep, that is true.
Fernando hates him. Checo hates him.
Mm-hmm.
He was out of F1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, aside from
Pierre already hates him, and he's not even teammates with him yet.
Yeah, right. Aside from, him being there, which we've talked about before, I don't think we need to really dive into it, but not only is there a driver that most everybody kind of dislikes and doesn't get along with, there's also something else at that team going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's something behind the scenes, I don't even know what to call it, whether it's, management or just a personnel issue or what it is, but there is clearly something not jiving there that Alonso wants out so bad that Piastri was like, no, I'm not going there. We're not
Fuck
doing
this.
that. Yeah. Like, you're cool. You're cool. You're cool. Fuck you. You're cool. I'm out.
All right.
Like, that's more or less what happened. And dude,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't happen without reason,
I know. Especially with a guy like Piastri. Like, you could
Yes.
see, like, Fernando getting pissed off and just being like, bro, I'm out. But, like,
Yeah.
somebody like Piastri who's been waiting for this seat, like, essentially, like, that's been his seat and it's been known. And for him to be like, bro, I don't even want this thing. I'm just gonna explore other options and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, how bad does it really have to be?
Right.
Maybe Ocon's that toxic.
Hey, I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Maybe he worked with him for a year and a half or so and was like, bro, there's no way I'm being on a team with this dude. I don't want no part of this.
Yeah.
I'll go race sports cars.
Could be. Could be. I think a lot will come to light next year.
Bro,
with Pierre in there.
I think Pierre's with him is just gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be fireworks.
I think Pierre's gonna smash him.
Mm-hmm.
Mark the tape. Pierre's gonna smash Ocon next year.
Yep. Hopefully the car is easy for Pierre to adapt to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take any like extended period of time for him to get comfortable with it.
I think it will be if Ocon can handle it.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's move it on down to order. Alfa Romeo.
I mean, we can kind of run through the rest of them, man.
Yeah. Alfa Romeo, Bottas was, I mean, he came in the points, P9. He was sitting up there pretty for a little while, up in like 6th, I think he was hanging in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once, I mean, Max kind of caught back up and he just dropped out a few. And then I think I don't know if his tires kind of fell off or what, but I don't think it was as much of everybody else coming through. I think he kind of just fell off a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys that were coming through were going to get through him anyway, but I think he just kind of
like Charles kind of disposed of him immediately.
Yeah, at the restart, that was immediate. Which, hang on. Before we go any further, on that restart, why was Yuki in the middle there? Why did he not fully unlap himself? What did I miss?
So, all right, essentially, because I was wondering the same thing during the race. But essentially what happened was
he working his way and the unlapping yourself window closed and he was just stuck there? Like,
That's what happened. Kind of.
Because, like, man, if that's the case, that's as much as it kind of sucks. Like, they need to do an extra lap under the safety car to let him unlap because,
I think he wound up being on the lead lap, but out of position because of the way the safety car caught them and where he pitted. I think he got thrown out of position.
Okay.
It was some kind of weird thing like that where they couldn't let him unlap himself again because I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe not. But there's some weird thing with the way he pitted and where he came out.
Okay.
And where he fell in. And I think he started to unlap himself and then stopped. And
yeah, I mean, he did a great job of like
not weird, just getting out of the way.
Being that he was not where he's supposed to be, he did a great job of just getting offline, get out the way, and just assume his correct position. So good job, Yuki, on not making it really a situation that needed anything further. Like, you took care of it, and it wasn't a big deal. It was just really weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very strange. And I was noticing that, like, and then I was sitting there, like, watching, like, what the hell is he doing in the middle? And then the commentators started talking about it, and they're like, no, that's Yuki. What the heck is he doing there?
Yeah. Well, at first,
and like they were coming around, and I'm like, bro, let him out. And then it's like safety car ending. Yeah. And I'm like, what's about to happen?
And it was kind of weird too. Like,
because he was in between the Ferraris.
Yeah, they'd show a clip, and I'm like, why is there an AlphaTauri there? And then they'd show another clip, and I'm like, wait a second. Wow, that I must be losing it because that's Bottas clearly between them. Okay, we're good. And then something else, and it's like, wait, no, that's a freaking AlphaTauri. Like, what is happening here? Yeah, because he was in between Bottas and Leclerc.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad it.
No.
It didn't.
No. He was in front of Sainz. He was in front of Sainz because.
No, he was behind. He was behind Bottas.
No, because they were talking about Sainz. When he ducked off, Sainz actually overtook him before the line because he ducked off like he did and stayed out of the way of everybody. And they were talking about, like, I heard this on the race podcast. They were talking about, like, how insane it would have been for them because there was something noted with the stewards between Sainz and Yuki. And it was because he overtook him before the line because he ducked off to the side when everybody went. And they were saying how silly it would be if Carlos would have got a penalty because of that. Which, interesting. Dude, you know what's crazy? If Ferrari really won it, they could have, like, low-key went to the stewards and been like, hey, give him a 5-second penalty. And it would have put him behind Charles and in front of Fernando.
Right.
Problem solved, Ferrari strategist. What's up?
Yeah, so apparently I'm looking at it now. It was, after the whole unlapping, not unlapping thing of last year, it became more automated and less human input as to who's what, where, what's happening. And because of when he pitted, he technically passed George in the pit lane, therefore unlapping himself. And so it was kind of just a weird anomaly.
But he was still caught behind a safety car.
Right.
Yeah, it was just weird.
Yeah.
But George was. So did George pass him on track behind the safety car? Because George was the lead car behind the safety
So it
car.
says, hang on, where did it go?
Like that's what's weird about it.
Yeah, yeah. So it says when the safety car came out in Brazil, the 3 lapped cars were Sonoda, Albon, and Latifi. Sonoda was right behind Russell in the queue when AlphaTauri took the opportunity to pit him for new tires. In doing so, he actually passed Russell in the pit lane, thus technically briefly unlapping himself before emerging onto the track in 6th place in the queue behind Russell, the lapped Albon, Lewis, Checo, Carlos. Yeah, he was behind all of them. He was behind Carlos. He was behind Bottas in front of Leclerc.
So what the hell were they talking about?
By passing Russell in the pit lane, Tsunoda had created a situation that had not been anticipated, and according to the automated system, he was ineligible to unlap himself. When the lapped cars may now overtake message came across, it only mentioned the numbers of Albon and Latifi.
I remember that.
Tsunoda's engineer hesitated when he saw the message saying you can overtake, lapped, stand by, blah, blah, blah. In the confusion, Tsunoda initially unlapped himself from signs, but then stopped behind. All right, you might have been right. I swear.
I knew it.
All right,
I knew it.
I remember. Okay, so that's what happened. He started to unlap himself because I remember seeing him behind Bottas.
That's what I said.
That's where I was thinking he stayed. Okay, all right. I don't recall seeing him getting out from between them. All right, so yeah, it was all just a big cluster.
It feels an awful lot like the Spa pit lane debate.
He then let Sainz back past, restoring his original place in the queue. The restart thus took place with the lap Tsunoda still separating Sainz from his pursuers. So he was behind Sainz at the restart.
Yeah, but it was shortly thereafter. It was kind of like
it doesn't matter. At the restart, he was so I was right. He was behind Carlos.
Now at the restart, he just ducked off to the side, got the hell out of the way of everybody.
He was behind Carlos.
Well, I didn't say that, but like that's what they were alluding to is that Carlos overtook him at some point in there. And then at the restart, he just ducked off to the side. And I'm sure a whole bunch of people overtook him before the line.
Yeah, that was a weird
It was situation. Just a screwy situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's one of those things that like the drivers get all like freaked out, like don't know what to do when it happens because like they don't want to miss out on anything, but then they also don't want to like they just want to go. Like he got off the road, like he slowed down, I'm passing him.
Right. Yep.
Let's see here.
All right. So
okay. So hold on.
Yeah. What you got?
Time out. Oh shit. I just had it perfect.
What are you trying to find?
Okay, I'm watching it right now. On the immediate restart, he's right behind. Carlos ducks down. Bottas, Charles, and maybe an Alpine all overtake him before the line.
Oh, okay.
And I believe he let Carlos by. like at some point on that straight. It is a very screwy situation, and one that they need to. Like, I always thought it was kind of stupid that. Yeah, there he goes. I always thought it was kind of stupid that that just lap cars in general have to legitimately unlap themselves.
Right? Why can't they just pull off and
like just put them in the back of the queue? Just align them how they need to be.
No, because then the other teams could argue, fuel consumption differences and
Who
blah, blah,
cares?
blah.
They're not even relevant.
I mean, it's going to happen, though.
I know. But, like, how about this? Put them where they're supposed to be in the order and leave them a lap down.
Yeah.
Like, I never understood why you get to regain your lap.
Mm-hmm.
You were so slow that you got lapped. Why do you get that advantage back?
Yeah.
Why do you regain a whole minute plus of time?
Yeah. No, I do agree with that.
That's stupid in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I mean, the rest of these, we got Aston Martin, Haas, the other half of AlphaTauri, and the Williams. Unless you remember something
of the
I
Aston
don't.
Martins scored points. Seb was up to third.
Yeah.
They looked like they were going to have a decent race, and I don't know if they just got outsorted by safety car stuff.
Yeah. So Stroll finished P10. Seb finishing right behind him. I don't know if you really have much else you want to add to any of them. K-Mag, which we hadn't mentioned yet, a congrats goes out to him for his first pole.
Right? That was a wild session.
It was. It was indeed. But hey, regardless how he got it, he got it. And congratulations are due for that.
Mm-hmm.
But then his weekend got shortened when he got a little tap from Danny Rick.
Lovey-dovey.
Spun him around, and rightfully so, he let the car keep rolling backwards because he was staring at a bunch of cars coming directly at him. So the car is rolling, generally you just want to remain still, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're still, you're predictable.
And he actually got it to where it was going to get off the track even quicker.
Yeah. Normally it's hold your foot on the brake and just remain still and everybody will go around you, hopefully. But you are predictable. You're not moving. Well, it was pretty clear because that's normally the problem, right? Like in a spin, you don't know at what point it's going to stop spinning and just start rolling one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very clear as to which way he was rolling. So he made the decision to let it keep rolling, which I think was the right decision.
It was
because
moving
you could see
away
where
from
he was
the
going.
general.
Like
it was moving away from the general consensus of where the field was going.
Well, not only that, but the car was not going to change direction.
Right.
Like any driver that saw it knew it was going that way. There was no confusion there.
Mick was the only one that really had to make a snap decision.
Yeah. Yeah, because when Mick came up to him, it was still like, okay, which way is the car going to roll kind of thing.
Right. He was still kind of going around.
Yeah. Yeah. But, after Danny Rick tapped him, he decided to try to go around the right. And as K-Mag started letting the car roll off the track, he hit Danny Rick, spun him, and he went into the tire barrier, ending his day.
Which, to be fair to Danny Rick, like, I don't know if in the moment he really made the wrong decision. Like
which moment are you talking about? The moment when he tapped him, or the
no.
moment?
That
When
was
he got
horrible.
hit?
That was ridiculous. I'm talking about when he tried to shoot around him.
Oh yeah.
Like
No,
I don't
like
know if he'd have like
I
jammed
don't
on the
think he
brakes.
could have went the other way.
If he'd have jammed on the brakes and just waited for him to clear, he'd have got rear-ended by 2, maybe 3 cars.
Yeah.
If he'd have shot to the left, he'd have taken out a whole bunch of cars.
Well, and I don't think
I think he
go
went
left.
for the.
I
That's what I'm
don't think
saying.
left was an option.
That's what I'm
because
saying.
of where K-Mag was. I don't think
Right.
it was a matter of taking out more people. I think the way K-Mag spun when he tapped him, I don't think left was an option, period.
That's what I mean. But if he'd have went it, he'd have wiped out, like he'd have collected people. And possibly K-Mag too. But his only option was to try and shoot that gap.
Yeah.
And K-Mag just happened to stop the spin and straighten out. Like, and right into his direction.
Yep.
It was a shit situation that he caused 100%. But
yeah.
Like, I don't, in that instance, I don't think he made the wrong decision by trying to gun it through that hole.
Yeah. I find it kind of funny that K-Meg spent the rest of the race out there. He never went back to the pits.
I know, man. Maybe it's just one of those times where you just kind of needed the time, you know?
Oh yeah.
You just needed I mean, like, he was sitting on a pole the day before. Like, you want to talk about like all-time highs to all-time lows?
Yeah. That's it.
Like, there's nothing to debrief. It was lap 1. You know, it's like, bro, he spun me around and then he smashed me. Like, that's it. That's all there is to talk about. Like, it's not like it's one of those situations where it was a 50-50 deal. I mean,
yeah.
He was just minding his own business.
And he got tagged.
And Ricardo just grossly misconstrued that situation.
Yep. Yeah. So.
All right. I don't think we really need to get into anybody else. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is.
Yep.
The rest of them wasn't good.
Yep.
We'll just leave it at that. I think we have a lot to look forward to next week.
Last race of the season. I wonder who's gonna pull out the championship.
Right. But dude, you say that, but there's actually a lot.
There's a lot at stake for
There's a lot at stake.
A lot of different
in
positions,
the race.
Drivers, constructors.
None of it's at the top, but
right.
We got
there's a lot to be decided.
So second, Lewis, I think technically could take Russell's position. It would take a DNF from Russell. Carlos is only 6 points behind Lewis. Fernando and Esteban are 5 points apart. Get ready for those fireworks.
Yep.
Valtteri. And Valtteri's pretty clear of Seb. Like, I can't see Seb.
I don't think there's going to be
Valtteri
that much
by
of
14.
a gap. Yeah, but Seb and Danny Rick separated by 1 point.
By 1 point, yeah.
And then K-Meg and Pierre by 2 points.
This is all Lance and Mick by 2 points.
Lance,
and
and
Yuki's
then
right there.
Mick and Yuki are tied 2 points shy of Lance.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean there's a lot to be had here. And that's just in the drivers.
Yeah. On the team side, I mean, look, Ferrari's got a 19-point lead on Mercedes. Has Mercedes had a mechanical failure this year?
I don't think so. I don't think
they have.
Mm-mm.
What a stellar record.
Right. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's 6 through. I don't know about 6 through 9.
I think. I mean, look.
I mean, anything's possible.
McLaren finalized the screws in their coffin with a double DNF this week. I mean that, and then Alpine actually had a decent result.
They're 19 back.
Yeah, that's even worse off than Mercedes.
Hard for them to overcome.
That's even worse off than Mercedes because Mercedes is capable of scoring more points.
Mm-hmm.
Alpine isn't capable of scoring the amount of point, like the positions needed to recoup that gap in 1 week.
Yeah. And I mean, previously, we were talking about the 6 through 9 race. Honestly, I think it's the 6 and 7 and the 8 and 9 race.
Bro. So Aston closed it to within 5 points.
Yeah.
Did they close it? No. Actually, wasn't it 4 points before?
I don't know if I had that written down.
Yeah, because where did Bottas finish? He finished in 9th and Lance in 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually made it to 5 points opposed to Aston closing it.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't see
interesting.
Kind of the same thing Alpine and McLaren. The further down you get, the little bit larger points difference is much, much harder to make up. So it's I think it's really just between
5
Alpha
points,
and Alpha
5
and Aston.
points is very, very doable.
Well, yeah, no, that's not what I'm saying. We were previously talking about the whole 6 through 9 battle.
Right.
Now
right.
it's the 6 and 7 battle and the 8 and 9 battle.
So what would 5 points be? 8 and 9? 8th and 9th?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so they're separated by 5. Haas and AlphaTauri separated by 2.
Yeah. And then Williams.
And then there's Williams. Sorry, guys. Y'all got no hope. That's where you're finishing.
Unless y'all won to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that.
So, all right, we want to do some predictions here. How about, let's see. Predictions for Abu Dhabi.
Yep.
How do we want to do this? Do we want to just keep going with the podium or?
Yeah, I mean, it's the last one. Let's just do that. We've pretty much botched every other one of them that we've done.
That's not true.
We've gotten somewhat close a couple times, but for the most part, we've been way off. Anytime we go out of the norm, it ends up being the norm. Anytime we go with something different, so, all right. Podium predictions. Oh, this is tough. I'm going. Max. Who's coming P2? Man, what do I think Mercedes is going to look like next weekend? God, that throws a wrench into the works now. Part of me wants to go Max Lewis again. Max Lewis and Charles is what I'm kind of leaning towards. Oh, damn it. I don't know. I'm going Max Charles Lewis. Max Charles Lewis. That's it.
Okay, I'm going Max Lewis Charles. But I think Carlos is right behind Charles.
You mean? Oh yeah. You picked Charles in third. Yeah, I do think
Change it up from you.
Yeah, I do think Carlos is coming in a very close fourth.
I think to be honest, my actual thoughts are a little different than the predictions. I just went different because maybe at some point we're going to tally them up and see if who did what. In all honesty, I do think that the way that the Abu Dhabi circuit is laid out now will lend itself pretty handily to the Ferrari car in the way that I'm trying to pull up this circuit here.
The easy circuit, straight away, 90-degree turn.
Right. And as in general, throughout this year, the Ferrari has been exceptional at those low speed 90-degree type turns.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's able to keep the rear and get on the power has just been on another level from all of the other cars. So I don't know what was Red Bull's actual issue this past weekend, but it really struggled, like really, really struggled in some of those style corners. You know what? I'm going to change my prediction.
All right.
I'm going to say Charles wins the finale, followed by Lewis, followed by Max.
Ooh.
Dude, like, I don't know what the deal was with the Red Bull this week, but it was terrible in those style corners. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And that's what really screwed them in their overall speed on the track because, like, they were still faster than everybody in a straight line, but they got such a horrible exit out of the last turn that it didn't matter because they couldn't pull it out. So, whatever. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
It's just something I'm going with. And the Ferraris have been exceptional with a lot. And I mean, we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 90-degree or tighter turns.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect the Ferrari to be strong. The stretch between 5 and 6 is an absurdly long straight.
Yes.
And then again, between 7 and 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
8's not really a turn. I don't know why they even count that, but
yeah.
Well,
it's just like they count, 10, 11. I'm trying to remember how tight 11 is. I feel like 11 might be a lift.
But that's the thing. Ferrari
but like
hasn't been
10
slow.
and 4, those aren't even turns.
Ferrari has not been slow in a straight line by any means.
No.
So I'm gonna go with it, bro. I think they go out with a bang. I think Charles goes out with a bang.
Well, we'll find out.
And I think Max is gonna have a little trouble. Maybe even run it in again with Lewis.
I think there's definitely a little bit of unsettled debt to be had.
Yeah.
You know that.
I don't think Max would care too much at this point if he ended his season a few laps early.
Right? Yeah. So it's going to be a good one. I sure hope it's going to be a good one, because coming off of this weekend and how exciting this was,
dude, better be.
God, I hope it's not a end of season Mexico.
Right.
Like,
I don't think it will be. This track's been a little more conducive to good racing than Mexico.
It absolutely has been. It has.
It's just Mexico's crap.
Yeah.
But Brazil is phenomenal.
It's still not Interlagos.
Brazil is ridiculously good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, all right. You got anything else?
I'm done.
Let's wrap it. And I leave you with this. When you start out in a team, you have to get the teamwork going, and then you get something back. And that is Michael Schumacher.
Another one from Michael.
Another one, yes. And on the flip side of that, when you lose the teamwork, you lose a lot more. And there's
I'll throw you my own.
There's a little bit of teamwork turmoil happening, whether it be Red Bull you're looking at or Alpine.
I'll throw you my own.
What you got?
When you are the team, fuck everything else. Max Verstappen in his head. He hasn't said it out loud yet, but it's coming.
Fair enough.
All right.
All right. That's going to do it. We will see y'all after the season finale at Abu Dhabi, the Yas Marina Street Circuit.
Hope it's good. Let's go out with a bang and no controversy, God damn it.
Yeah, please, for the love of whatever it is.
At least nothing for real is at stake.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, didn't say this earlier in the beginning, but if you're catching this on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're catching this on the podcast, there will be a link to the YouTube video for the episode in the description, both of which will have a link to our link tree, which will take you to our social medias: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. There's also a QR code here on the video, which takes you to that same link tree. So give us a like, give us a follow, a share, tell your friends, and let's keep this thing going. So we'll see y'all after Abu Dhabi. Later.